I was at the seminar, and I didn't see Professor Spencer there, unfortunately. But the word las sectas was in the message of Don José María Gil Robles, President of the European Parliament. He sent a written message to the seminar, and the end of his written message, which was only printed in Spanish, said that he looked forward to the extension of the Corpus Juris system to cover all fields of criminal activity, which he listed some salient ones: gun laundering, mafia activity, and this rather cryptic reference to las sectas. And I asked a Spaniard there, does that mean las sectas religiosas, religious sects? And they said yes, religious sects. Put on a par with, so I wrote subsequently, half joking, I hope, Quakers watch out. The European Union has some surprises in store for you. And I was told by some Danish public prosecutors who were there that they had on their territory the headquarters of Scientology, because in Germany it was banned by law. So, yes, that is the reference, that is all I know about the reference to las sectas.
Professor Spencer, do you have anything to add?
I didn't go to the seminar, not because I didn't want to go, but because I was chairman of the law faculty in Cambridge at the time, and the date wasn't one that I was able to go to. The seminar was, I believe, a seminar arranged for an association of lawyers interested in protecting the financial interests of the community in Spain, and there have been seminars for associations of lawyers for the protection of the financial interests of the community up and down the land, including in this country, ever since, in order to float the Corpus Juris project to those people. Certainly, there's been a mixed response, and at the seminar we had in this country, a number of the people who are involved at the moment in prosecuting people for budgetary offences don't like the Corpus Juris and think if there's a problem, they'd rather have the problem than the proposed solution. I dare say there may be people who would like to see the Corpus Juris project turned into the model for a single unified code of criminal procedure throughout the whole of Europe to deal with all offences, but I have yet to meet any of them. Certainly, there are quite a lot of people to whom I've spoken who would like to see the Corpus Juris project form a model eventually for the prosecution of criminal offences which have trans-border elements to them, like drug smuggling, international money laundering, international frauds not necessarily related to the budget. Till this moment, I had never heard of anybody thinking that they might like to use it to prosecute people for belonging to illegal sects, and I'm astonished anybody should actually so have thought or wished.
I see Mr. Francis wave an impressive selection of paper, but you can just have a quick paper.
This is a report on the 11th of February conference. This is the official report on the 11th of February conference in Brussels last year. Conclusions. The issue of stepping up international judicial cooperation can be tackled both at a general level and specifically in relation to the protection of community finances. Firstly, this would be seen as an appropriate response to strong public concern throughout Europe about fraud and corruption which harm the community. A consolidation of European judicial cooperation in the field of community finances could serve as a useful starting point for a global measure throughout criminal law. And that is a clear statement of intent.
I see we are running low on time, so perhaps we have one last question.
There's been a point I've been trying to raise right from the very beginning.
Okay, well, two more then, if we could make them as short as possible. First, we.
Yes, it's to really to both speakers, but it's I'd like clarification of this issue of Corpus Juris will go forward if the political will is there for it to go forward. Now, in the campaign for the last general election in this country, Sir James Goldsmith put forward in his speeches the difference between the European interpretation of political will and the way it's interpreted in this country. Now, people went out and voted in response to that. 811,849 people, not merely 12, expressed the opinion that they were not satisfied with the legality of what had been done with the transfer of power. Now, the speech in question which I'm referring to pointed out that on the continent there tends to be frequently a political class who see it as their job to interpret the political will, whereas in this country we depend solely on the results of elections. You have said that you're happy to see closer European integration. Would you be happier if that came about following a full and fair referendum in which the people were allowed to express their opinion, which they have not been?
Yes.
Yes.
Whilst we find something both speakers agree on. So, last speaker. Last question.
Right. I don't need that. I'm sure you can hear me, ladies and gentlemen.
It's for the camera.
Well, right. Will you hold it? Yes. Good. You can. Is your level of suspense up? First of all, you told us that it is unlikely that this will go through anyway. So we wonder how much of that £1 million an hour we send to Brussels was wasted on this. I don't think it was wasted because I think it will go through. And I do believe it'll come to this country because we've heard roughly what you've said so many times before. Oh, it can't happen here. Oh, it might happen. Oh, well, it has happened, but there's nothing we can do about it. This is what I see. And I believe it will be forced upon us for very good reasons, because it is the way of Europe. The European Commission, the commissioners take an oath of secrecy for life before they take their seat, and everything that happens in the European Commission is done in secrecy. That is the European way. It is not the Anglo-Saxon way. It is not our way. And if you want proof of this, one only has to see VAT. Did we ask for it? No. But we've got it. Metrification. Did we ask for it? But we've got it. Right. I will now come to a question which is rather important on this legal aspect. Because as I see this whole issue, it is not the European way, it is very much the German way. So whereabouts in this wonderful document, Professor, is anything to do with something dear to our hearts in this country, presumption of innocence, and another aspect, putting people into double jeopardy? In other words, if they don't like the result, they will try you again. Something that hasn't been exercised in this country for centuries.
Article 31 of the Corpus says any person accused of one of the offences set out above is presumed innocent until his guilt has been established legally by a final judgment which has acquired the authority of res judicata. There's, I beg your pardon? Like the Birmingham 6. There's also a provision which says, that I can't put my hand on it at the moment, that people can't be prosecuted here, as I recall, for offences for which they've previously been prosecuted.
Can I make a quick response to that?
Okay.
Revelation from Brussels last week.
But more important than that, I think that his references to the Home Office, original opening remarks, his discussion of the Home Office, what possible relevance can anything that the Home Office do when they will cease to exist probably within about 5 years' time, with a function being taken over by Brussels?
Yes, I just wanted to say something about double jeopardy, the right ne bis in idem, the right not to be tried twice for the same offence. In many countries, I don't think this is dealt with here. An appeals procedure is not contemplated. The actual trial takes place in each member state in Corpus Juris, fine, correct. However, in the Italian jurisdiction and in, I think, many others, the prosecution has a right to appeal against an acquittal. So you can indeed be tried. You know, if they don't get you the first time, they can try again. So when you're acquitted, you're not off the hook. You mentioned, the second gentleman mentioned something about fraud, and there was also a reference to the Commission actually having been denounced for fraud by one of its employees, Mr. Van Buitenen, recently. I just wanted to point out that Mr. Van Buitenen was employed by the 20th Directorate General, Financial Control, whom he said had been watering down the Court of Auditors' reports and had been roughly covering up for the fraud, going soft on it. And they responded to his revelations to the European Parliament, which, in our way of thinking, is the master of bureaucrats and civil servants, like the Commission have been described. They responded by the 20th Directorate General, Financial Control, is the very self-same one that proposes Corpus Juris.
Well, perhaps if we could move on to some closing statements by each speaker. Just a couple of minutes to restate your positions.
I think I've... perhaps...
No, I don't want to say any more, thank you.
I think you...
Appeal is also open to the EPP, the European Public Prosecutor, as a prosecuting party. In other words, if you're acquitted, the prosecution can appeal against the acquittal and try it again. Is that or is that not the case? Or not? Page 172, top left-hand corner.
Certainly, our proposal includes a right of appeal for the prosecution as well as a right of appeal for the defence.
Unknown in this country for 400 years.
It doesn't bother me.
Perhaps we should... Excuse, could we please have a bit of calm now? Yes. Just a few final statements before we take a vote. I hope it doesn't appear to... Again, I would like to thank, first of all, both speakers for a lively and very interesting debate, which has not received the coverage it merits. I'd also like to thank Karishma for the various things she's done for us. And to refer back to Professor Spencer's opening remarks, let's take a vote on the motion to see if he really has succeeded in, as it were, bearding the Daniels. So, all those who, after hearing what has been a very reasonable and rational debate by the standards of the issue, still think that Corpus Juris, or the implications of Corpus Juris, would be detrimental to Britain's national sovereignty and human rights. Could I have a show of hands? All those against the motion?
Will that be reported in the Cambridge News tomorrow?
I doubt it, but... Any abstentions? No. Well, it just reminds for me to thank all of you for being here, and to thank both of our speakers who have Topikal's come from Rome, and Professor Spencer's come from sabbatical in Paris, teaching in Paris. So it just goes to show how far you have to go to get a good debate. Thank you all.